is the Nina Samuel Show edition of the Whatchamacallit podcast. Or Whatchamacallit.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of What Do You Call It podcast. I'm your host, GB. The background is probably something you notice straight away. If you are watching this on YouTube, I will explain as the interview goes, but I think it's the most appropriate background to have for today's guest, who goes by the pronouns of Lord and Saviour. If I can keep up for the entire episode, I'll be quite proud of myself, but we'll see how it goes. Your Lord and Saviour is also a pro wrestler. Please give up for Tony Sin. How you doing today, mate? You all good?
Good evening. Yeah, no, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I love the background. How are you doing?
Yeah, I can't complain, to be fair. I'm pretty good. 2 more days work, and then we've got 3 days off. I mean, circumstances are great, but, you know, you've got to take what you can get. So, yeah, got to chill out.
Very nice. Well, so you got a long weekend. Oh, no, sorry, with the bank holiday, or you've got another day off as well?
Nah, just a bank holiday. So,
oh, right, yeah, no, it's good.
Tomorrow,
it's good for everyone. Obviously, it's gonna be a sad day, but
yeah, it's sad, but you know, it's just,
weekend.
I mean, I get to sleep in, so I can't really complain too much. But I will probably watch it like the rest of the country. So, but you know, I know some people aren't a fan of the family, some are. So each their own. But I've just, you know, no point being disrespectful because you know the country are mourning as well. So. It is what it is. But I'm not going to go on about too much because we're here to talk about wrestling. We're here to talk about you. We're here to talk about you being our Lord and Saviour. So before we crack on with that, I want to speak to you because the event happened recently and I know you attended it as well, like myself, Clash at the Castle. I'd like to hear from you. How was your experience in Cardiff and what's your favourite match?
So my experience of Cardiff as a weekend was incredible. I mean, as a sort of, you know, the event itself, the atmosphere for it was like something I've never experienced. I mean, Edge's entrance.
Oh my god!
Was sort of the real high point for me. And I've never heard a crowd sing something like that. Like regardless of, you know, any musical artist, whoever you want to say. You know, and I've been to plenty of festivals, whatever. Yeah, I've never heard that many people singing word for word.
Oh, Bridge, like, oh my god!
It was unbelievable. As an event itself, I would say it was perhaps slightly light on storyline development. You know, the people that I went with, the whole weekend were just sure that Drew was going to win. They convinced themselves. I was just like,
homecoming for the Scotsman in Wales. That's
exactly, like the hometown pop. And I was like, you are crazy if you think they're going to sacrifice Roman's, what is it, 2-year reign at
2+ year now, yeah.
They're just going to do that in Cardiff, when you know, not even primetime American TV, all that, just so Drew can get a hometown pop.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people sort of talked themselves into disappointment because they had such high expectations on that point. However, would I have liked to have got a bit more than just Dominic turning on Ray? Yeah, perhaps. And I think the one sort of booking thing that I would have changed, if they knew that's what they were gonna deliver, I just don't see how they didn't put Sheamus over in the match with.
But I do think how they're building up Walter. I understand. I just think it might have been the right time though to do it because Sheamus has been working so hard. I mean, not just this year, but in general. I'm sort of hot and cold sometimes, but more based on the gimmick as opposed to his in-ring work. His in-ring work's always been solid, but that match itself, it was chef's kiss.
It was, and I just think it would have been nice to have given. You know, I know Sheamus is from Ireland, so he's even less of a hometown boy. No, it's like the British Isles crew. Yeah. And yeah, I just think he deserves it. I know they are building Gunther, and Gunther's amazing as well, and has a big UK legacy even outside of WWE. So you know, there's a lot of love for him as well. But yeah, other than that, the show was good. It was good fun. I'm glad I went. I've watched it back as well, and it stands up on, like, you know, with commentary and stuff. So yeah, good, and hopefully they'll do another one.
I think they will, just because of like how much money they've made from it and the viewership when they're obviously on the network, and it's just done great business. So hopefully they can come back and we can actually get a Welshman on the card, and you know, fingers crossed. Obviously they released Mark Andrews like the week before, but you know, it is what it is. Before I rewind the clocks and find out how my Lord and Saviour got into wrestling, I want to discuss a recent multi-man ladder match that you had. I had actually Jackson Hart, a friend of the show. Big up to him, you know, really good guest. And I saw you did like an amazing razor's edge onto the ladder. I'd like to hear from you how you felt going into the match and how you felt after.
So I felt so when I got booked for it, I was super excited for it, and I just thought that this is because I'm a big being raised on like the TLC matches and all those sort of iconic ladder matches. I was like, brilliant. This is me sort of almost fulfilling like a childhood dream sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then in training, we did some just like learning how to fall off ladders and stuff like that onto the crash mats.
Yeah.
And even that was knocking the wind out of me. So I was sort of like, so I went from being really excited to then being a bit sort of apprehensive about it. But then the day I woke up, because it was the day after Clash, so we had to get up at.
Oh, was that right after Clash?
Yeah, the day after Clash. Yeah. So we got up at, because we stayed in Cardiff, so we got up at 5 a.m. to get back for, I think the ring setup was 9 a.m, something like that. And obviously it's like 3 and a bit hours.
Yeah.
But all of that considered, I woke up and I had all the excitement again. And I was just ready to go. Like we'd planned a few spots, but not everything. And I knew the people that were in it, having worked with most of them before. I knew that they were, they were going to be main things safe, but they're also going to be up for doing things. So yeah, I was really excited, and then got into the match. And yeah, it went well. It went really well. I was happy with it. I think there were maybe bits where it could have been a bit faster, like the classic ladder match where it's the slow climb up the ladder, and everyone.
I can imagine some people being a bit impatient, like the younger generation. But I love the slow build. Like only wrestling does it take this long to go up each step.
Yeah, there's slow climbs, and then there's some of the climbs that I mean, even I myself did. So that's kind of everything. Yeah, honestly, no, I did one, and I sort of, because you're looking out the corner of your eye, waiting for the next person to get in, and I knew that they weren't coming, and I was probably like halfway up the ladder already. So I then had to like feign that I was like stopping for a rest, as if I was like climbing Everest or something.
But it looks sometimes it does look quite obvious as well. Like when you're looking around, it's like, oh wait.
Yeah, but the problem is you can't really do anything else, because otherwise I'm going to get there and then I do the whole, where you're like brushing it with your fingertips. And that looks even worse than stopping halfway up. So so other than that, no, I was really happy with it. There were a few little spots that I did that perhaps could have been like distance a bit better in terms of they just didn't quite look as impactful as I wanted. But yeah, main thing was everyone was safe. Yeah. Everyone got out uninjured. And yeah, we didn't lose our way in any way. So we sort of, the story we wanted to tell was there. So
you told the story, no one was injured. I mean, was it your first ladder match, by the way?
Yeah, first ladder match.
Ah, nice. So because like you actually you had a good time doing it, and no one got no broken bones. You want to do it again? I'm gonna assume.
100%. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think because I had done a multi-man sort of like hardcore type thing previously, so I at least had that experience, and they're a lot easier to plan than it would seem. You'd think, because there's so many people in there, it all gets a bit jumbled, but in actual fact, it's just a case of remembering where your part starts and finishes and what sort of bookends either side. And other than that, you don't really need to remember anything. You just need to be keeping an eye on things so that you know.
Just be like the right place at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'd definitely be up for it again. I'd quite like to win this one, because obviously that was for a title shot.
Yeah.
So
at any time, isn't it?
Having got sort of halfway up the ladder, I'd like to go all the way up the ladder. But yeah, 100% I'd be up for it, definitely.
Nice, man. Nice. I didn't really think about it actually. Like, preparation into it. Like as a fan, sometimes I kind of forget what goes into it. Because I remember like it was Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, ladder match 2005, and you can I can loudly hear Eddie Guerrero like, "Where the fuck is Vicky?" She's like he's literally trying to like, "Oh, I can't grab it." Like just you mentioned that, just kind of remind me of that spot. But no, I thought I'd mention that. That's pretty cool, though. Pretty cool.
Was the 2005? Was that the custody of Dominic?
Yeah.
Oh, what a story! Wow, look how far we've come now, and now he's turned on Ray.
I know. I love it, and we was there to see it live.
I know it's that sort of one of the most ridiculous things, but it was great as well. I mean, even if you look at the two,
I loved it, man. Like if you had to explain it to someone that doesn't watch wrestling, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck are you watching?" But we were
it was a lot of fun.
It was great, man. It was great. I'm going to rewind the clocks. I want to find out what actually got you into wrestling in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it was more, as I think a lot of people do, is like, because it was so popular at school that most people were into it. It's certainly at an early stage, and then a lot of people drop away, don't they?
Yeah.
But for me, I sort of always, certainly up until I sort of got into my teenage years, I would watch it pretty, pretty religiously. I wouldn't watch the pay-per-views just because, like, obviously charging things to our Sky box office account at the time. This is pre-network.
And we have to stay up till 1 on as well, just
Yeah.
when it begins. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
exactly. So I watched like Raw and SmackDown, and you could keep across things. And obviously, because I wasn't like a super informed fan like I am now.
Mhm.
It was more just like seeing the wrestling in itself. Do you know what I mean? That was it. Even like watching Sunday Night Heat, when now knowing what you do, that was like that they were almost like the B, C grade guys that no one took seriously. But because it was your first experience of them, like guys like Scotty Too Hotty, you were just like, oh my god, he must be the best wrestler ever. Like
Channel 4 as well. I remember watching it on Channel 4, mate.
Like, he can do the worm and like they're dancing. And I was like, okay. And that's, I think that's really what really got me into it, because you have sort of two phases to it. I think you have that immediate bit where there's that one kid that goes, it's not real, and then everyone's just like,
back off.
Okay, well, that you lose a lot of people there straight away.
Yeah, and no matter what you do to explain it, it just goes over their head and they'll just repeat themselves. Doesn't matter.
Exactly. And they're like, oh, so it's not real. Okay, but it's just entertainment. But then I think it takes, and this is me trying to sort of like retrospectively think about it, I think it took me a lot longer to realize that the characters were fake.
Yeah.
And to the level that they are as well. Like, I think I knew that guys like Kane and The Undertaker weren't their real life personas, but there was definitely a time where I knew it was fake, but I was still scared of Kane.
Yeah.
So there's that like overlap. And that was really what sucked me in, and probably still does. I mean, with the modern product, the athleticism is genuinely impressive. Like, even if you know it's fake, you can watch it and just be like, these guys are incredible, like, gymnasts, basically. That's what a lot of guys are. So you can watch it from that standpoint, but still, what gets me going is like the characters. I
do believe character work is so important, and we will get to the character work, and which is why I've got the background. But there's a few things I want to talk about as well, and we actually built up to it. Who are some of your favourite wrestlers growing up? I'm going to say maybe Kane and The Undertaker, just because you mentioned them.
Yeah, well, the Undertaker definitely. The Kane, as I said, I was scared of him, but I do love him even now. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Kane.
Oh, stuff he tweets and stuff. Yeah, that is a man. As the wrestler,
what a lot of people do, because they just like to dunk on him, and I'm like, no, you have to understand it as a sort of like cornerstone of a wrestling promotion, to have a guy like that who is legit, like, he's massive and he's got a look, and you can't miss him. And as being that sort of like, I think where he was positioned, he was like the gatekeeper of the very main event level. Yeah.
And you could put him in the main event if you want to, or you could put him in like the lowest, the bottom of the card.
Yeah, easily. He just drives storylines so easily. And the same with The Undertaker. But yeah, in terms of my actual true favorite, so Stone Cold is forever going to be my favorite. He just is. He's going to be my first love. But in terms being like with a bit more nuance, I would say someone like Rob Van Dam is the guy that if I could have one guy's moveset, it would be him.
I wouldn't even attempt it, mate. Honestly, I can barely get up without.
Yeah, I know.
I am looking forward to seeing the next one.
I've heard a few of his moves, and you can do them. You can do a very bad impression of them.
Yeah.
But to do them like as snappy as he does and perfectly is basically impossible unless you are built like he is. And then like someone like Scott Steiner as well. Just
fucking love Steiner. Nice. I think you are the first to mention him in terms of favourites. I love Scott Steiner. Yeah, mate. Big Bad Booty Daddy is the man.
Yeah, there's something about the way he would just be able to be like, my freaks and my peeps. And I was just like, yeah, okay, right, I'm in on this. And like the way he looked as well, especially towards the end. I was too young to get sort of like the Steiner brothers thing. Like, well, I've obviously gone back and watched it, and they were amazing.
There's like literally like a pack of highlights have just exploded on their attire. Like,
yeah, exactly. when they were on top, but when he went solo and that sort of like
the beach blonde and
and the muscles, and
all natural.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm not saying anything. He definitely had biceps like that naturally. But yeah, just like he's like wrestling distilled, because he's like a cartoon basically.
Yeah.
But could actually wrestle as well. So yeah, guys like that. I'm a late 90s, early noughties. That's just what.
I think he actually, it's an unpopular opinion, but I think he might have had a better career in TNA than he did in WCW after he split up with the Steiners. I just think he did so much in TNA that I actually really like remember. Obviously, like the Steiner match, which has become infamous. You know, like Big E was doing, for fuck's sake, on a cameo video, and just I don't know it word for word, but I think a lot of fans will, and it makes you smile. Just things he does, even though he'd actually fuck you up. That's the thing about him as well.
Oh yeah, completely. And he was doing moves that like he does, that sort of like fall away moonsault that people are doing now. Like,
but he would jump.
Yeah. He would do it just from the floor.
Yeah,
like he had the power. Broke his neck doing it. Okay, and then he had to put it on the side. But it's like things like that early on. And yeah, like you said, the Steiner mass promo it's the sort of thing that I think a lot of people are going to try and imitate or try and like sort of
I mean, I just love it. Like, if anyone hasn't actually heard the Steiner math promo, I've been shocked. But you haven't, pause this interview, YouTube, Steiner math promo TNA. Should come up. Think Sacrifice 2007 or whatever. Watch it. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you can actually tweet me about it as well, that'd be awesome. Cheap plug. But continue.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'd implore anyone to go watch it as well. It's rambling. It's like artistic rambling. Like you think he's like lost what he's saying.
You couldn't write it. You couldn't make it up.
No, I think it has to be deliberate. It has to be.
Oh, massively.
But
I couldn't imagine Russo writing that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the TNA stuff. He was great in that. Like the whole main event mafia stuff.
I love main event mafia. I mean, it ended really badly when like Samoa Joe was joining it, and then Matt Morgan's in it, but it started off really well.
Yeah, I think all factions sort of can descend into that a little bit, especially the ones that once you get past like 5, and then it's like anyone can join.
NWO.
You're gonna dilute it way too much. Like the NWO.
Yeah, when you got Horace Hogan and Crush. I mean, I like Crush in WWE, but I think WWE is fucking awful. But Horace Hogan, I think that's just like the final nail in the coffin. Like, we need to call it a day. Disco Inferno in NWA.
Yeah, I think it will. But the problem is they were probably shifting so many T-shirts that they were just like,
oh yeah.
Let's just ride this all the way out, and they did. Great T-shirt, great entrance, but they can sort of die a very lonely death sometimes.
And they did, mate. And then WWE bought them in 2001. But I mean, I don't want to blame that. But anyway, what actually inspired you to become a professional wrestler? I think now I spoke to you now briefly about you being an old school fan, Steiner, NWO. So you got the knowledge, and you said you grew up and you sort of watching it, including Heat, Scotty Too Hotty, not Scotty Steiner. But what inspired you? When did you know you want to do this as a career?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to do it since I started watching. I was like, I'd love to do it. As everyone did, you sort of like wrestle on the sofas, wrestle on But really, for me, because I started quite late. I started basically in my 30s. I started when I was 29, but like a month before. Was just simply I couldn't find a school. That's what it was. So I'd looked probably 2 other times in my life, like when I was in early 20s, then mid 20s, and just struggled. And then I found this local school, having seen a poster for another wrestling promotion that was in my local area. I then thought, okay, if they've got the promotion here, there must be a school around here because there must be talent. Do you know what I mean? Because people can't just be traveling 3 hours to come and wrestle in Luton. It's just not going to happen. So started looking, at the Hat Factory. To be fair, that show actually did get cancelled. It got COVIDed off. But and then just found this school. So the school that I train with isn't the same, isn't associated with the promotion.
Oh, okay.
It's called Square One, and they're sort of like, I guess like the training academy / they do run their own shows of Ultimate British Wrestling, UBW, who sort of runs shows mostly in Hertfordshire. And it was just a case of I wanted to do this for so long, and now I found it, and they're about half an hour away. and as I think a lot of people did over lockdown, it was like, okay, what truly does it, what's my passion? I think a lot of people fell into a lot of things, and they managed to either rediscover or discover things about themselves.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happened to me. I literally started this in the pandemic.
They are, and that's the thing, and it's great. And I think if you can find something, because we had so much time on our hands, but if you enjoy doing, and like you said, because you've continued on after the pandemic, you clearly, and it's great. And yeah, for me, and I was just like, right, okay, I'm just going to give this a go. I just want to do it just to see. And when I started, I had a goal of just having one match, just so I could say that I could have done it. But then as soon as you have one match, it's never gonna. It's
an
never
addiction.
Gonna be
Like, I actually really like this.
Yeah, you really like it, and then you start changing your goals, and then I've been lucky enough for people to say that they enjoy it. So I'm like, right, okay, now let's try and just try and improve, basically. And yeah, and that's what I've been doing. What I've been doing since I started, just trying to improve, trying to set like reasonable goals and reasonable checkpoints. Yeah. And just aiming towards those, really.
I will ask about the goals that you have in your career, but I want to backtrack a little bit and ask you about your debut. When did you make your debut? How do you think it went? And did you have any friends or family there?
No, so I didn't have any friends or family there. Firstly, I didn't, because I wasn't. Well, so I have in my mind, I've got like three debuts. So do you want? What would you? Okay, if with your question, what would you class as a debut? Would it be?
I would say personally, as a fan, the fan in me, I would say in ring, in front of a live crowd.
Okay.
But because we had the pandemic, I will allow you. If it was in the pandemic with no crowd, I would say that would count 100%.
I get that. Yeah, so mine wasn't during the pandemic. I mean, it did mostly shut down, but I wasn't even training. I started training as soon as the gyms opened up after lockdown. That's when I officially started training. So yeah, everything I've done has always been in front of a crowd, which ranges in size, but has always been in front of like paying fans. So if that's the debut, it would have been last December in a cosplay rumble for a charity. I think it's certainly for kids with special needs, but I think it might specifically be with like autism. And every year we run a show for them, and it's like we've got one coming up in October actually. And it's a normal UBW show in that we have sort of 5 or 6 matches, singles, tag team matches, and then we end it with this cosplay rumble where it's a normal rumble where everyone gets an entrance, but you're doing it in some sort of costume. And because last year,
what was some of the costumes, by the way? Like, I actually quite like cosplay. I mean, I don't do it myself, but when I like Comic Cons or whatever, I am fascinated by people who do it. So, what did you dress up, and what are some of the ones that stood out to you?
So I did it as the Pope, which was like a hangover from. So I had the Halloween. So last Halloween, I got invited to a costume party, and usually I'm a bit like iffy on them, but I was last year I was like, okay, no, I'm actually gonna get a costume and like do it properly. So I went as like this zombie Pope thing. So I already had the gown, and then when I got asked to make my debut and they said it's a cosplay rumble, I was like, okay, well, perfect. I've got this. I've got the Tony Singh character, like you say. You've got the background there. So the whole thing sort of just fell into place. Really, it was just it was just perfect timing. But it was a very simple debut. Like we sort of went in, and one of our main trainers, he had gone in, I think, first or second, and he was there to sort of like take our like shine as we got in. Do you know what I mean? Like, so everyone would have like 1 or 2 moves that they do to try and like establish what sort of character they are. So he ended up taking like probably like 10 sort of biggish moves in a row in a rumble, which is like not really what people are meant to be doing. But yeah, and then did it. I'd sort of been practicing, so I can do this like, the skin the cat thing where you can like put your legs back over the rope. So I had that in my locker, so I managed to get that out of my debut. So it wasn't just like I got in and was just like really stiff. I could sort of do some stuff. But yeah, I was only in for probably 3 minutes, but it felt like 10 minutes. But watching it back, it just, you're in, you do the stuff that you planned, and then it's like, okay, now you've got to ad-lib some stuff.
Yeah.
And because I didn't have the experience, I didn't really do that.
You couldn't just like go in, do like 10 moves yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. So I could do the planned stuff, but then I couldn't do the stuff that was off the cuff.
Yeah.
And very quickly, I was then just like, okay, you might as well just eliminate me because I've done it. I'm out there, like, I'm not just going to stand there and waste time, especially because if you're asking about like what the best costumes are, so the actual winner was a inflatable Christmas tree. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I want to say who was in it because it gives it away. But
no, that's fine. That's fine. Keep it a mystery. Someone dressed up as a Christmas tree.
Christmas tree, but it's like one of those like it's got like a portable fan inside it, so it.
Those big, yeah. I know.
Yeah, so he won, but there was also, and he beat the Grinch to. The Grinch was basically the penultimate guy in there. So he was in there. We had. Again, another inflatable, but it was an inflatable like T-Rex suit. So and like the head was massive on it. So the guy,
those ones, I love them.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but he couldn't get in the ring. This is the problem. So we had to like help him get in the ring. He was looking out of the like the eye panels were like where the neck is. So you had the whole head over the top. So it was just like not appropriate for a wrestling ring. But it was great. I mean, people loved it.
Yeah.
What else did we have? Then we just had like loads of there were like 2 different Spider-Men. There was a Luigi and a Mario, so they did like a gold coins thing.
Is this on YouTube?
I think so, yeah.
I need to find it.
It's called the Ultimate British Wrestling.
I might find it and then send it to like Jim Cornette and just like all of a sudden you have chest pains.
The business will be well and truly dead if he ever sees that. You know, I love it. He forgets that it's meant to be entertainment at the end of the day.
I know.
Entertainment, and we were entertaining ourselves as well.
Yeah, I mean, if the crowd are happy, like, you know, I actually don't mind Cornette, by the way, but some of his stuff, I'm just like, you really are out of touch, aren't you? Just you are a miserable fucker, but sometimes he does make me laugh. But yeah, no, I need to watch this on YouTube. I need to. If you can send me the link, I will probably attach it in the description. I need to find this.
Sure.
And I want to see you dressed like the Pope, which is pretty cool. Kind of like, you know, planting the seeds, and then it's obviously gave birth to Tony Sin. If you can tell me more about Tony Sin, the character, and you know why I've referred to you as the pronouns Lord and Savior. If you can sort of give me some background to that, and obviously why I've got the background with the church.
Yeah, so I actually with the Pope thing having gone down quite well, I then pitched that as being my full-time gimmick.
Yeah.
But they were like, no, you can't do that. No one's going to take you seriously. So I've got at least got it in my locker for every. I do need to do like a sort of comedy thing, and I have pulled it out since. But yeah, then the Tony Singh thing came around, sort of off the back of that. People then started giving me ideas, which is the best thing about wrestling is actually if you feel that if you give people something to work with, it invites them to give their ideas and sort of to come up with ideas for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So someone basically just said, why don't you do this like evil preacher thing? Because it's sort of religious, but it's not as on the nose as just being dressed as the Pope.
Yeah.
And I just, and I thought, okay, that could work. I always had the Tony Sin character was always what it is now. It was always going to be this sort of like jumped up, thinks way too highly of themselves kind of guy. And then it was just a case of, okay, what sort of image do you bolt onto that, if that makes sense? Rather than me having to...
You don't want to necessarily be like Mordecai, you know, like you said on the nose, like proper, like shoving it down people's throats.
Yeah, exactly. And I had the name and I had the characteristics, whereas I think some people sort of think of like, they get it in a different order, whereas I've been quite lucky in that I've managed to have that like core the whole time. Yeah. And then just build the sort of the presentation of it on top. And I've just sort of been, as you go along, you watch your matches back and you're then like, okay, so where would I be lacking here? What sort of like, what pieces could I put together that's going to make this look a bit stronger?
Just listen up for reaction and stuff. What can I change?
Yeah, for people to understand it. So that's where I got like the ring jacket with all the big feathers on it, because I was going out in just my trunks for a while, and it's a crazy how much I know, obviously because you're in your pants essentially, but when you go out just like that and people look at you and all of a sudden you just feel so exposed. Whereas if you go out with a jacket on, especially if it's like, you know, a fairly like eye-catching jacket, you all of a sudden you can feel the interest in you way more just by the way people look at you. And even if some people are just laughing because they find it comical, which is fine because it's a reaction, but it makes the world a difference. So it was more just a case of trying to find those little pieces. Like I've recently just bought, and I haven't debuted it yet, but I've bought like an actual so it's called I don't know exactly how you pronounce it. It's called an aspergium, which is a proper holy water dispenser. Yeah. Right.
Going all out with this, aren't you?
It's so good. So I bought it from a website, I'll plug them, holyart.co.uk, and they sell
So that's just you plugging that website.
They sell proper like church furniture, basically, the sort of stuff that. So in your background that you've got on at the moment, you see you've got like the candelabras to your right, to your left as you're looking on screen. They sell like that sort of stuff. Yeah, sorry, it's not actually behind you. But so anyway, so I bought this thing, that it looks like it's like a cross between a vibrator and a magic wand. Yeah, the two. I don't know if that's not. It's probably not the best two things to bring together for religion, for the church.
Family church.
Anyway.
Christ compels it.
Oh god! And so it's just got this ball on the end, this brass ball, and in the ball it's a sponge. Yeah, you soak the sponge. Yeah, I'm giving away a lot of tricks of the trade. I'm giving away wrestling's tricks and also the church's tricks. Anyway, so you soak that.
You're gonna get a lot of DMs after this interview.
I know. And you basically, as you flick it at people, obviously the sponge like contracts, and then you get like little bits of water. So, but it's actually the proper thing. Like when I was ordering it, they would ask you, they're like, "Are you a priest?" You don't have to. I didn't say I was a priest, but I don't think that's like it's not part of the criteria. But this is like proper stuff now. And then on top of that, I bought a it's called a censer, the things that like hang, like the brass things that hang, like, the incense coming out of it. So I've got one of those as well, but I need to get some coals and stuff to actually make it work. But it's just things like that.
I'm so glad I follow you on Instagram. I need to see this.
There's also talks, although it's not happening just yet, but there are talks about building a proper crucifix, but that's going to be it's sort of, I think it could be somewhat on the line for some people.
Mate, like I mean, like I know it's 2022, but like think about they did an ECW, Raven had to apologize. I don't know, just I'm not a religious person, but I mean. I shouldn't say this while I'm laughing.
I know. The Raven thing didn't go down amazingly. I know that. But
that was just like literally.
We sort of talked about it, and we were thinking of doing so rather than it being like a traditional cross like that, trying to make it almost like a T shape.
Yeah.
Then at least you can say, okay, it's not like a Christian cross.
Controversially corrects Cash, my man.
Well, yeah, it does. But I don't really want to get cancelled for something that it's basically just a prop.
Because like some people just don't have humor. Like, I try to respect people's religion. I'm not gonna go into too much, but I mean, I personally think it'll be awesome. But that might not be everyone's cup of tea. But I think you should do it. I think you should do it.
We'll see. I also don't want to do like everything at once because you need to sort of drip.
Build it up, mate. Yeah.
It's the novelty quickly wears off. If you just do everything at once, people see it for 2 or 3 shows, they'll be like, okay, what's next? Whereas with this sort of stuff, I could maybe get like at least half a year out of it, and maybe even establish it. I
can't remember the last religious gimmick properly. It was maybe Pastor William Eva. I know he was doing it for quite a couple of years, but he stopped it and he became like the general. I guess he was been in the show before. He was a good interview. Cheap plug if you want to go find that. It's good from below. But I think the fact that that's going to make you stand out as well. I mean, adding more and more. So I feel get to the point where people will want to see just your entrance alone, see what you're going to have next. What prop or what,
Definitely. I think, to be fair, entrances are as big a part of wrestling as anything.
Absolutely.
Because important. You can, in your head, you can hum so many people's theme tunes. You can picture what they would do, like almost step for step, really. You know that where they're going to be at certain times of the music. be it like old school guys or even like new school guys, like Hook's entrance. He's got that Action Bronson song.
That's cool. That's a quality song.
It's a great song, and he's amazing. I love Taz, and I love what Hook is.
I'm so glad Taz is like on commentary now full time on Dynamite. Improves it a lot.
Like, just hearing him, and like you can tell how proud he is. Obviously, Hook is talented in himself.
Yeah,
he's not
Hook's right. He's only like 22 or something like that. Something stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Like, not to go back to Dominic Mysterio and dunk on him, but like
he's right about it.
Awful, basically, and he's just
he is, isn't he? Like, I've tried to like him, but he's pretty bad. You know, it's bad when Logan Paul has wrestled like 1 or 2 matches, is miles better than him. Not just a bit, but miles. And Dom has kind of no excuse at the point. He's Rey Mysterio's son. He trained with Conan. He trained with Lance Storm. He's been around enough talent now to absorb, being, practice his craft, and he's still pretty bad.
Yeah, he is. But you contrast that with Hook, who has only had a handful of matches and is already like, beloved. But yeah, my point is he comes out to that song and you know he's gonna stop by the steps when that sort of like the music cuts out a little bit and it's like that sort of horn type sound, and he looks around to the crowd because it's just repetition of it and people enjoying it, and then that becomes synonymous with your act, really, doesn't it? It's just so I want it's a big part of what I want to work on as much as the in-ring.
Hello there. I've got a special announcement from our next guest.
Hi, I'm Anderson North, and I will be appearing on the next What Do You Call It podcast.
You heard. Just before I ask my famous question about the 3 dream dinner party guests, I want to ask you, I know you've not been in it too long, but I feel like you have got some highlights already. And I know we mentioned about the ladder match, but what have been some of your other career highlights so far?
I think so. Becoming the #1 contender for the square 1 belt definitely was a highlight. Beating I beat Clarence the Sassy Bear, who's he's so established at this point. So then to beat him,
great guest.
I love him. He's so good. So yeah, to beat someone like him was sort of made me feel like, okay, this is now getting some traction. Definitely. I mean, the whole of July was great for me. So I was wrestling. So I wrestled every weekend. I worked for two different promotions, and off the back of that, I then managed to get like another booking with their like sister company. So that made me feel like a proper wrestler. Do you know what I mean? Like actually having the momentum of going from like match to match. And I had a weekend where I had a match on the Friday and a match on the Saturday. So you can sort of like it gets into you where you're like, okay, you need to take this almost like a little bit more steady because you know you have got something else to do tomorrow. Yeah. And they were both quite like big matches. So one was actually the Clarence one on the Saturday, and then on the Friday was for Wet Cake Promotions, who are like a sort of comedy leaning promotion that are twinned with Sacrifice, and that was in the multi-man match. It was it was the first ever Monet in the Bank match. Where it was like, so rather than it being like up a ladder, there was meant to be this supposedly priceless painting in a safe that was like in the middle of the ring, and every 2 minutes there were 4 of us. It was me, Memes, Adonis Payne, although he was wrestling as Adonis Cena because he's lost his last name in that promotion, and Mia Cortez. And yeah, so basically every 2 minutes the ring announcer would shout out a number for the combination for the safe, and then everyone would like try and dive to get into it and all this stuff, and it went really well. It was my first ever multi-man match, and also hardcore-ish match, although it was a bit more comedy. So to then do that and for it to go well was really satisfying feelings. For it to be just like sort of, we planned it on the day. There was nothing done before, and afterwards for like people to come up and be like, yeah, that was like pretty impressive, the whole match. And it was the first. You asked earlier about have any of my friends or family been to watch me wrestle. That was actually the only time that somebody had come to watch me. So it was the same friend. He came to watch both matches.
Oh, okay.
He is the only person, and actually, sorry, his brother came on the Friday, but they're the only people that have been to come and watch me. So for me to sort of put in like a pretty strong performance, and for him
and have someone outside of the wrestling business.
Yeah, and he's not into wrestling at all. So for him to come away and be like, yeah, I actually enjoyed that, and I now get what this wrestling thing is. Like, he all of a sudden he was like, yeah, this is just entertainment. That's what it is. It's obviously impressive, but it's entertainment.
Yeah.
And also there's a clip from that match that has like, it's got my record number of likes on Instagram. I've got like, it went like semi-viral. It's got something like 600 likes and like the views, which is way more than my followers. I know that's not loads, right? But bearing in mind, I think I've got like 180 followers, and this is
more than anything I have to say that.
Yeah. So I was really happy with that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I know it sounds a bit wanky, but my highlight has genuinely just been like the journey this year because it's been my debut year, and everything feels bigger than the last match. So it's more just a case now of like looking forward to where it goes.
What's next?
Yeah, exactly. And I have got some, so what have I got booked at the moment? So I've got 4 shows booked at the moment before November, which is, I know it's only like 6 weeks, but that's good. I've got a couple of, like first time I could make my debut for Sacrifice. And I've got a, actually, I don't even know if I'm allowed to now. Yeah, well, it's going to be a spoiler. So if anyone...
Spoiler alert.
On the 8th, I've got my my first match with Harrison Leon. First, like, singles match. And we've been training. We basically started training at the same time. And he's like my sworn enemy in kayfabe land. But out of the ring is like my best friend in wrestling. So for us, we've sort of like... We've almost booked like our career rivalry already, sort of thing. I know we're not relying on other people to book it for us, but we've dreamt.
You're like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, like they train together.
That's exactly
enemies, but they're actually best friends.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the perfect comparison. And we've got stuff like, because we know we've got this match on the 8th, and we sort of like, I sent him something the other day. And he was like, no, we need to wait. That's like a main event spot rather than it being like the first chapter of the story. So we're booking stuff. But the 8th, what's the show called? Horicana 2 in Stotfold. So it's stuff like that that I'm looking forward to, really.
That's awesome. And if the fans do want to keep up to date and obviously find out more information on these upcoming shows and what you've got lined up next within the year or the future in general, where can they find you on social media? I do have another question to ask, by the way, but I just want to, it's a good way to sort of lead into it now.
Yeah, sure. So my Instagram is at tony.sin.god. Because Tony's right. So Tony Sin was already taken, even like Tony.sin. And I didn't want to be, because everyone else that has these like standard names, they then put like PW or whatever.
I've noticed that.
And I didn't want to be that guy.
PW after like.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking you guys, by the way. You can all still come on my show, but it's just something I've noticed. You have it. It's not a bad thing.
You never know, because it then like it restricts you to just being a wrestler, whereas I might want to branch out and do something else on top. Yeah. I don't need the PW. So at tony.sin.god. Most of it goes down on Instagram. I do have Twitter, which is just at Tony Singod with no dots in between.
That's why I couldn't find you. Or did I tag you? I can't remember. I don't think I did. I think I couldn't find you. No, I know. I'm glad I asked, actually.
Yeah, it's actually, but Instagram's mostly what I'm focusing on, because I once upon a time I perhaps would have wanted to be like somewhat internet trolly with my character and be on Twitter hammering away the whole time, but I can't be bothered with it nowadays. So I have
noticed more like, I don't know, wrestlers this sort of day and age, especially in the UK, you guys use Instagram more. I have noticed that. In terms of, that's how I communicate more with wrestlers like yourself, and obviously where I arrange these interviews. A lot of it, most of it's actually Instagram now. Yeah.
British wrestling just runs on social media, basically.
Yeah.
I think I've got like 2 wrestlers' phone numbers. Everything else is just Facebook Messenger and about really.
And sometimes it's like, I'm trying to call someone, like, I don't actually have your number.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen. You sort of feel like
and he's offline. Fuck.
Yeah, it feels really old fashioned being like, what is your number? Because
What's
obviously
the phone number?
we have these
You got a house number?
yeah, what's the landline? I'll call you on that. I have to speak to your mum first. But no, Instagram's at Tony.SingGod to answer the question.
Awesome.
I'm worried about going long, but yeah.
I will put the details description below as well. But the PW thing, I just noticed. I just laughed because I've noticed it. But honestly, if you want to keep it. It is just something that Tony just made me aware of now, and you all have PW in Britain, so keep up though. And as I said, if you do want to come on the show, let me know. But anyway, the final question, the fun question. Everyone likes this. It's become a famous question now. 3 dream dinner guests for your dream party. Oh mate, I thought that you're gonna make this into like the Last Supper or something, but
so I had actually. That's quite a good idea. I hadn't even thought of that. But seeing as I've only got 3 guests, I can't quite get like all the
apostles,
all the apostles and Judas. There's not really room for them. The story on that one's already been told. So who have I got? So originally, right. So I was going to go, and this has been a last minute change. So I was originally going to get Vince McMahon in, because I'm a horrible mark, and I was like, so presumably this dinner is one of those ones where I can like ask them anything and they have. You
can ask whatever you want, mate. It's your party. Like you're going to be picking their brains and chatting away. So if you want Vince McMahon to party, you can have him.
Yeah. But then I was because obviously he's basically the king of wrestling. He's the biggest figure. In my opinion, he's the most important person.
You and I wouldn't probably be having this conversation right now without Vince.
Exactly. You can hate WWE if you want. You can hate the stuff that he's done, and clearly he's landed himself in hot water.
He's a pervert. No one's denying that. But as a promoter and a businessman, and what he's done for the wrestling business, you cannot take it away from him and deny his influence and what we know today.
Exactly. But then I thought, so all that said, and him being the king, I then thought, he's very WWE Limited, isn't he? That's basically that.
That's why I think a book would be boring by Vince, to be honest. I thought about this. I mean, not the party, but in general, Vince was doing a book. At first, I'd be awesome, but he'd be like lying about so much shit.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. I'm working on the basis that he has to answer everything honestly.
Yeah.
I can be like, tell me what happened in Montreal. Tell me what you thought about Stephanie and Triple H at first. Like, you know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff. But I then thought, because he's only limited to WWE, I'm not going to have him. And instead, I've swapped him for Jim Ross.
Okay.
Jim Ross.
Grumpy Jim Ross now is brilliant, isn't he?
He's just a legend. Like by far the best commentator. I know I've grown.
Great. I can't disagree with that.
But he's also, he had the Attitude Era, and he was talent relations, so he'd have all that knowledge. But he's also then done AEW, which I'm completely mad.
Just WCW, like NWA, and just Bill Watson.
He's been around, so I feel like I'd get more out of him. For just like in terms of like the people that I'd want to ask for, but where I would fall away is like Vince. I'd love to ask him about like building an empire and stuff like that, because I've got dreams of starting my own promotion one day. And
nice.
Yeah, the king of promotions. Why would you not want him? But anyway, so because I can't have his empire expertise, I've gone for Genghis Khan as my second.
I love it, mate. Historical figure. I say it sometimes when I brought this, this game up. Love it.
And just obviously had like the biggest. I think his biggest continuous empire rather than necessarily the biggest empire.
Yeah.
But just clearly like a genius builder. That's a terrible way of describing it.
To be honest, Bill and Ted kind of ruined.
He was also an incredibly violent person. Yeah, so I'm not going to build my empire in that way. But yeah, I feel like just to sort of, because he's such like a not mythical character, but like big figure in history. So he'd be good. Yeah. He'd be good to just pick his brains on things. And then my third guest, right, was going to be Jesus Christ. Yeah, because I would probably.
Some people, I wouldn't even say it's controversial, because like at the end of the day, like you're acknowledging him, and he's a very important figure. Obviously, we all know.
Yeah. But then, given recent events, I've then swapped him out, and I'm bringing the Queen, just because I'd like to, just speak to her myself and just thank her for everything.
What are your real thoughts on Prince Andrew?
Yeah, oh yeah, of course, yeah, and I get all that stuff as well. Obviously, I get the good stuff. I get the Diana stuff. I get Prince Andrew. I get to find out if she's really a lizard, like some people will tell you, like that sort of stuff. No, I don't believe in that.
I know. Some of the shit I read about the family, like not from them, but just like people's conspiracy. I'm just like, oh, fucking hell. Yeah. I'm not going into that, but
yeah. So I feel like So an audience with the Queen would be nice.
So we'd have the Queen, Genghis Khan, and Jim Ross.
And Jim Ross, yeah.
If I had it in me, I'd probably do. I think a Photoshop that'd be quite cool. Just like t-shirts of it, just like, and then just you doing that. And we can have it here when the background is.
There you are. We'll do it for the second episode.
I've got to ask for the listeners that are watching this on YouTube, the background, should I keep it or should I not? Let me know in the comments below. I think Tony's going to say yes. Tony, should I keep it, by the way?
100%, yeah.
I kind of like it, to be fair. It's not too distracted and doesn't smudge too much. It's not too bad. I kind of like it. Blends in. I had the group one and it just kind of fizzed out a bit. But yeah, I kind of like it. I thought I'd ask that, but yeah. So I don't know why I'm laughing now. Oh God. Good. 5-year plan. Where do you see yourself as a wrestler in 5 years? I know you talk about career goals and you talk about what you got lined up, but in 5 years, where do you want to be? If you can have a destination or an ideal, spot.
Yeah, I feel like the answer that anyone should give that's sort of like
WrestleMania headline,
yeah, WrestleMania, whatever, AEW. Yeah. But I know realistically that's not going to happen for me. Like I
never know.
No, but I don't have the size, and I'm also, because I'm 31 now, so like WWE are never going to go for me because I'm too old, and I just think I probably don't have the natural sort of size that it takes to be stand out, if you know what I mean. I can be as good as I want and have a great character and whatever, but there are some intangibles that do come into play when it comes for like.
But it isn't necessarily now. I think maybe 10 years ago we had this conversation. Like you would automatically say WWE, and that's it. But now there is so many options, so much to do in wrestling, and that's why I kind of love it at the moment as well. It isn't just WWE. I have to be. And if I don't, I'm a failure. There's so much you can achieve in wrestling without even stepping foot in a WWE ring.
No, it's true. And I mean, if you look at someone say like Danhausen, what he's doing now, despite being, he's like he's
barely wrestles, but he's so over.
He's scrawny in wrestling terms, but he's so over. He's incredible.
Ridiculously over. Makes so much money. His merch.
It can be done, but I feel like if anything like that's ever going to happen for me, it will be by chance. I'll go
get that crucifix now. Then get that crucifix.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go viral for something, and then all of a sudden you're on the map, rather than it being anything.
So you go P&Q, get some wood, you'll be fine.
Yeah. So look, 5 years. I just want to work.
Yeah.
As much as I can. I want to do like everything in wrestling. I even want to do like the really shit promotions where there's like 3 people.
I'm not gonna. I was gonna be like, oh, can you name them? But
no. I wouldn't do that. But like, say it's like a startup promotion, and the guy.
I know you mean.
And it's just like completely dead. I want to do that because I feel like that's part of the journey. And then, like I said, I want to start my own promotion. I'd say maybe in 5 years' time we would be looking at something like that.
The last official question: what would you name the promotion?
So I haven't got to that point. It's going to have to be something that ends with W, obviously, because that's just.
Would there be a reference to religion in the promotion?
No, I don't think so, because I think that'd be too controversial for a brand name.
Yeah.
The only thing that I've sort of been, you either name it
after Unholy Wrestling Alliance coming to a town near you. No wait,
something like that. That would work, or I just magic up a name out of somewhere. To be honest, I haven't thought of the name. You put me on the spot there. I just haven't. Yeah, sorry. I wouldn't even be able to come up with something like halfway decent, because it would just be Tony Sin Wrestling for now. That's it. That's
I love it. TSW. I'm pretty sure that is kind of taken, but we'll double check after the interview. But Tony, thank you for coming on. Sorry, my Lord and Savior. But no, thank you for coming on. It's been an absolute blast. Like, I just love chats. Like, every episode that is different. Ones like this that stand out to me. I love it. I think it's been an absolute blast. I actually enjoyed your interview with Chris that came out. I think it was last week. That was a good interview as well. I listened to it. think it was yesterday, actually. But no, it's good. Good interview. But this one's better. No, I'm joking, Chris. I know you're going to listen to this. Chris, you're a boy. Shout out to you. British Wrestling Journey, if you can listen to him as well. That would be great. But as we are now at the end of this interview, this will be the last episode just of the week. Calm down. I can hear the teardrops. But I'll be back after bank holiday next week. So for now, everyone, have a good weekend. If you can, subscribe to the channel. Follow me in the links below in the description. You can find the social media handles right there. Follow so you can keep up to date. And the more you support the channel, I can have great interviews with Tony Sin and others like him. I don't think there is anyone like him, to be fair, but you know what I mean. But for now, everyone, take care. Long live the king, and praise be to Tony Sin. Hello there. I've got a special announcement for my next guest.
Hey everyone, I'm Bo Bells and I'll be appearing on the What Do You Call It podcast coming very, very soon.
You heard. Ruby Murray.
You heard.